Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sayyida Elina Badul and I'm a foundational level student in Rihana Levala AI School. So today I'm going to ask some questions from Maya and Chair to get my answers on the topic of please. So Maya, my first question to you is what does the word please actually mean and where did it come from?
So, please is basically a politeness marker, a way to make requests more polite and show respect. It comes from an interesting place, Old French actually. Originally, it was plaisir, which meant to please or what is pleasing. Over time, it changed to please and evolved from meaning it pleases me to being used when asking someone to do something that would be pleasing to you. It wasn't initially used as a standalone word for polite requests, but that's how it became common over time.
Okay. Now you have to tell me how did people show politeness before the word please existed?
Before please was common, people used various phrases to show politeness. Often it was about acknowledging a hierarchy or expressing gratitude up front. Phrases like, I pray you, I beseech you, good sir, madam, or God give you good pay when requesting something. Basically, people expressed humility or gave thanks beforehand as part of making a request. Politeness was woven into larger gestures or religious phrasing, not a separate little word like please that we use today.
Okay, Maya, now tell me why is saying please considered as a sign of good manners today?
Saying please today, it's almost like
Yes.
a social lubricant, shows you recognize the other person's free will and aren't just demanding something. It signals respect, consideration, and good upbringing. It's those little social graces that smooth interactions and build rapport with people. Using please really signals you're making a request, not issuing an order.
Do you think please you people use please less or more in modern times and why?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's definitely trending downwards. We're a lot more casual and informal these days, especially with texting and messaging. Lots of commands given without politeness and quick back and forths. We've also become more direct, maybe to appear efficient or confident. So, yeah, I'd say please is slipping in daily interactions, though still there when you want to be really mindful about being polite or professional.
Okay. Now tell me how does saying please change the way of others response to you?
Oh, definitely. Saying please makes people feel more inclined to help you out versus just feeling like they're being ordered around. It activates, yeah, it activates reciprocity. Tend to want to return the politeness you showed them. It creates a smoother interaction where they're not feeling pressured or dismissed, so they're much more likely to say yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Are there different ways to say please in different cultures or languages?
Absolutely. Different cultures have fascinating ways to show politeness. In Japanese, there are multiple levels of politeness with different words and verb forms. In Spero, you'd use por favor. Pretty simple. All right, I'm still here. Good morning to you too.
Okay, Maya. So my next question to you is can tone of voice change matter more than the word please itself?
Absolutely. Tone matters a ton. You can say why please, but if you say it sarcastically or with a demanding tone, it completely kills the politeness. In fact, it can come across as aggressive. But even without the word itself, someone who sounds genuinely kind or respectful can get what they need without ever saying please. It's that whole package of tone, body language, approach.
Okay, now tell me does using please show more respect, kindness, or both?
I'd say both. Please shows both respect and kindness. Respect because you're acknowledging the other person's autonomy, that they have a choice in whether or not to help you. And kindness because it signals you care about being considerate rather than demanding. They really go hand in hand with that word.
How can small words like please impact our relationships?
Small words like please make a huge difference. It's about showing that you value the other person, not just what they can do for you. Over time, consistently using please builds trust and goodwill. People feel respected and more comfortable helping you out. So it strengthens relationships rather than just functioning as a transaction.
Okay. Now tell me, should schools focus more on teaching politeness and communication?
Yeah, I think schools really should focus more on teaching politeness and communication. Academic smarts are important, but being able to build positive relationships, ask effectively, and show respect actually makes kids way more successful in the long run. Teaching things like tone of voice, body language, and the impact of politeness could be hugely valuable.
Okay, very nice answer. So my next question to you is, what would happen in a world where people stop saying please?
I think if people just stop saying please, things would feel pretty transactional and maybe even a little harsh. Relationships could become more tense and aggressive, and people might be less likely to help each other out. It'd probably make simple interactions way more stressful, like every request sounds like an order instead of a polite exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. You are right. So my next question to you is saying please always genuine or can it sometimes be fake politeness?
That's insightful. Yeah, it can totally be fake politeness. You can say please just as a social script to get what you want without actually meaning to be polite. It's like a performance, not genuine consideration. Okay.
So my next question to you is, at what age do your children usually start learning to say please?
Children usually start saying please oh, age 2 or 3. They hear it from adults constantly, and it's just mimicry initially. They parrot here. Of course, they don't really understand the underlying concept of politeness right away. So it's more like copying the form rather than genuine consideration at that age.
Do parents today emphasize politeness as much earlier generations?
It's a tricky one. I think earlier generations often had stricter social codes and more emphasis on formal politeness. Parents today are often more focused on teaching emotional intelligence and communication, less about rigid rules and more about genuine empathy and consideration. So it's less focused on say please or else and more about cultivating kindness and respect as a mindset.
Okay. So now tell me, how does politeness differ between formal and informal situations?
Politeness looks different on the situation. In formal settings, work, business, meeting someone new, you'll see more please, thank you, indirect requests, more respectful titles, longer interactions. In formal settings, hanging with friends, family, become more conversational, relaxed, less formal. Casual language and minimal please and thank yous may not be necessary because of rapport. Hey there. What's
Okay,
next?
Maya, so my next question to you is, how has the meaning of politeness changed over time?
Mm, mhm. That's a good one. What we see as politeness has actually changed pretty dramatically over time. Think about the Victorian era, tons of formality and indirect communication. Now we're in a culture that prizes directness more, sometimes almost to a fault. What was polite then, elaborate balls, formal titles, would feel stuffy and overly complex today.
Okay.
Yeah,
So now tell
politeness
me.
has shifted
So now tell
rules
me.
to
Is,
more.
is it rude to expect someone to say please? Why or why not?
I think it's reasonable to expect please, at least in most interactions. But if someone misses it, I wouldn't automatically assume they're being rude or life happens. People can be in a rush, or maybe they aren't great at social cues. Unless someone's consistently being rude or demanding, I assume the best. Maybe they forgot or it's just not their usual habit.
Okay. So now tell me, can overusing please make someone seem less confident?
That's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. If you add please to every single sentence, like constantly, it can actually make you sound hesitant or insecure. It might give the impression that you're not fully confident in making your request or that you're apologizing for taking up space.
Okay. So now tell me, how does body language support or replace polite words?
But body language is huge. You can say please, but if you're rolling your eyes, it's obvious you don't mean it. But you can just as easily get your point across with a kind tone, genuine smile, or making eye contact. In fact, that can sometimes come off more sincere than just the words alone because people trust nonverbal cues more.
Okay, Maya, now tell me, are polite people treated better in society?
Yeah, pretty much. Polite people tend to have an easier time navigating social situations. People are more willing to help them out, collaborate with them, and build relationships with them. Well, it's not always fair. Being considerate and respectful often opens doors and earns trust with others. Politeness has practical benefits.
Okay, now tell me, how has the meaning of politeness changed over time?
You said lightness, you mean politeness, right? If
Yeah.
so, I covered how it's changed in terms of formality, social codes, from strict rituals to directness, then to cultural nuances and expectations. What did you actually mean by lightness?
So now tell me, are boys and girls taught politeness differently?
That's a good question. It's getting better, but traditionally there were differences. Historically, girls were often socialized to be more polite and accommodating, while boys were sometimes encouraged to be more assertive or direct. But things are changing. There's more of a movement now to teach kids, regardless of gender, the same core etiquette skills of being respectful and courteous. But it
Okay,
does
Maya.
depend on
Nice
family
answer.
values and culture too, though.
Now,
Thanks.
now tell me, can silence ever be more polite than speaking?
Definitely. Sometimes listening carefully and being quietly respectful is way more polite than jumping in with a bunch of words. Taking a moment to process someone else's feelings before responding shows respect and consideration. In a way, words can't always match, especially when dealing with emotionally charged conversations.
What role design, what role does religion or tradition play in teaching politeness?
Hmm, I'm not sure I quite caught that. Did you mean prediction or something else? Maybe
No.
repetition or.
My question to you
Okay.
is, how does politeness affect first impressions?
Oh, that's what you meant. Repetition. Okay, repetition plays a huge role in teaching politeness. Kids learn by hearing please and thank you from adults over and over. They mimic the behavior they see and hear consistently. So, the more parents and teachers model politeness in their everyday conversations, the more likely kids are to incorporate it into their own interactions.
Okay, Maya, so my last question to you is it possible to be too polite or what are the downsides?
Definitely. Too much politeness can actually be a problem. When you're overly polite or excessively deferential, it can come across as insincere or even passive aggressive. It can also mean you're not being direct enough or setting boundaries, which can lead to you being taken advantage of or not being taken seriously. Striking a balance between kindness and directness is crucial.
Okay, Maya, thank you so much for your time. So, everyone, this was my short session with Maya. I hope you guys enjoyed it and liked it. हम आपको मिलते हैं किसी नेक्स्ट माया के साथ किसी नए इंटरव्यू के साथ थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद